Hey, Kei Shin students and parents, Sensei Steve here. I get a lot of questions about our belt system and how testing actually works. Well, I'm here to answer some of those questions. As far as our belt system goes, we have 3 different belt systems that are out there. A lot of it depends upon age as well. So our first level belt system that we have is our Tiny Tigers levels. Our Tiny Tigers levels are students who are 4, 5, or 6 years old. So anybody 4 through 6 has to go through the Tiny Tigers belt level program first. Well, what's that? Well, the Tiny Tigers, in that class there, we work on a lot of coordination, we work on discipline with the children, and we work on a lot of basic combinations, our basic punches, our basic blocks, our basic kicks, basic self-defense moves, and we want to get the kids up and moving around and get their fitness going. So that's our Tiny Tigers program. Now within that, we actually have the belt system that goes with it. The belt system starts off, first off, as every student comes through the dojo, starts off with no belt. After they're here for about a week and they learn a few techniques, we award them their first belt, which is their white belt. And the white belt, I always tell everybody, is the most important belt in the martial arts. Everybody thinks the black belt is, right? The black belt just shows you've been here for a while. The white belt, no black belt starts without being a white belt first. So you have to be a white belt and come through the door and learn techniques. So you coming in and actually physically putting this belt here on shows and signifies your first training when you first come inside the dojo. So you've taken that step in that journey. So with the Tiny Tigers, going back to them, they start off with no belt. After a week goes by, they end up getting this belt here. After they get this belt here, it takes about 2 months for them to test for their first testing that they have coming in. And on that, all we would do is we would take this white belt that they have, and they would end up getting a black stripe that runs around here on the belt. So the black stripe that runs around here is their first level. And then from there, another 2 months goes by, which would be a 4-month total, and they would end up testing and getting what's called the white belt with the yellow stripe that goes through it, okay? So that white belt, then they change out belts and they go into this one here. They would repeat the process with the stripe on that one again 2 months later, and then 2 months after that, they would end up going for their white belt with the orange stripe through it. So in that whole thing, they have a whole stripe unit that goes on these things here, all the way up until they're almost 7 years old. And once they turn 7 years old, they graduate into our karate kids, kickboxing kids, and we also teach junior jiu-jitsu techniques in that class as well. Now in that class, the kids don't have to test in the white belt levels anymore. They graduate from all the white belt, novice level type stuff, and they go into our kid novice levels. Now our kid novice levels, then, again, if you're coming in and you're a brand new person, and not graduating from the Tiny Tiger stuff, a new person coming in who's 7 years old to 12 years old, again, would start off inside the dojo, no belt. After a week goes by, you get your first belt, and then from there, after you're here for about 2 months, you test for a stripe that wraps around it. After you're awarded that stripe, that gives you a gateway to get into your first belt, which would be the white belt with a black stripe through it. And from there you would have another stripe put on that belt, and then another 2 months goes by after that, and then you would be able to test for a yellow belt. And in the kids sequence, the belt stripes also go from this to this. So we would have a white belt, or excuse me, a yellow belt that they would test for, and then they would test for a yellow belt with a black stripe through it, and then they would go into their next level belt here, which was is an orange belt. So that's the sequence of belts that they start going through. Now in those levels, we also have beginner, intermediate, and advanced levels. So when I say beginner, just like we were just talking about, the beginner levels are the white belts, the yellow belts, and the orange belts, and all the conglomerates of the belt. So that would be considered a beginner level student. The intermediate levels are our blue belts, our green belts, and our purple belts. And they're belts for people who've been here for a while. They've worked on, and they have different types of material that they have to go over as well. And then from there, of course, we have our brown and our black belts. Now, after they graduate through that series, they grow up into the full belt series, which is teens and adults. You go graduate from full belt to full belt. You don't have to test for the big black stripe that goes through. So if you're a teen and you start doing martial arts at the age of 13, 14, or if you're a 40-year-old adult and you decide to start doing martial arts, you come in, again, no belt. After a week goes by and you learn a few techniques and you go through a testing or a little class test, you end up getting your white belt. Okay, and then from there you would test for your next belt. After you go through your stripe, you would test for your next belt, which would be a complete yellow belt. And then again, you would go for your orange belt, which would be this one. And then of course we go up into our intermediate belts, which is our blue, green, and purple belts. And then again, eventually into brown belt and black belt. Now, in these levels, we have our beginner levels, which is anything up to the orange belt, which is considered a level 1 material. We also have our blue, green, and purple belts, which is our intermediate level. So we've got our intermediate level now, and the stuff inside there is a little bit different. It's a little bit more advanced than what you would learn at the white belt level. White belt, yellow and orange, we're teaching just a basic jab cross. We're teaching you basic self-defense, basic front kicks, round kicks, side kicks, and techniques like that. When we go up into our intermediate levels, then in there we're starting to learn a little bit more advanced self-defense, and we're also learning how to do like takedowns on people, a little bit more advanced kickboxing techniques, and then eventually you go into your advanced levels. Your advanced levels are your brown and your black belts. So the brown and the black belts, in there we have a little bit more advanced self-defense because we're working against teaching people how to defend themselves against somebody who's got a knife, a baseball bat, a gun, two people coming after you. So you have to increase as you go. So you have to work through these belts. The belts are meant to show you a level, but also give you a goal-setting method to get to your next positions. And goal setting is something you very, very much need in life. So hopefully I answered your questions about the way we work our belt system. If not, maybe I confused you even more. I don't know. But you can ask me in person if you have any questions. Thank you.